From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In the NOCO. I'm Brad Turner, in today for Aaron O'Toole. There's nothing like 90-degree heat on Colorado's Front Range to make a homeowner look at their yard and think about making some changes. The Denver metro area typically sees about 45 days each summer when the temperature hits 90 degrees or hotter. That's according to the National Weather Service. Those hot, dry days can devastate your yard and make you wish you had a more resilient lawn. Our guest today has some ideas to help. Alyssa Linfield is a horticulturist with the CSU Extension. She and the other lawn and garden experts there researched the science behind creating a more drought-tolerant yard. And that's a big undertaking, one that's too big for a lot of homeowners to do all at once. So Alyssa is here to share her guidelines to create a more resilient yard in small steps. Alyssa, welcome to In the NOCO.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so before someone dives in and overhauls their lawn with a big, expensive project, your advice is to pause, to observe your lawn and make a plan. What should someone look for during the planning phase?
So making observations about your lawn or your yard could include looking at where the sun hits different parts of your yard. What parts of your yard are cooler or warmer, or looking at parts of your landscape that might be more marginal, areas where the turf might already be declining, or where there could be a little extra color or pizzazz that you could add to the landscape.
So you're looking at what's healthy and what needs some help.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you also like to talk to homeowners and people who care about their yards about setting a goal at this stage. What kind of goals should people be thinking about when they look at overhauling their yard?
Yeah, when people come to our Master Gardener Help Desk or to CSU Extension in general with questions about how to make their landscape more drought tolerant, I'll try to figure out what their goals are. And those goals can span anywhere from wanting to save money on their utility bills, wanting to have a more natural aesthetic in their landscape, wanting to support wildlife and specifically pollinators, or just wanting to have a more Colorado feel to their landscape, having something that might be lower maintenance because gardening here is really challenging. So understanding your goals are going to help you figure out where to get started on overhauling or making your landscape more drought tolerant.
Okay, so I've made some observations and I've set some goals. The second step you recommend is to start small and do that by working on areas around the edge of your yard. What kinds of changes could people make in those areas?
So sometimes people get really enthusiastic about these awesome goals that they've set, and they might go to a landscaper and get a quote, and that quote might be more than what's feasible for them in any one season. So that's where looking at small spaces in your landscape and converting small chunks or islands at a time might be more advantageous. So if you want to start by having your overall goal and your plan for your landscape, and then think about some of the more marginal spaces. That could be space around the perimeter. That could be spaces that are near sidewalks or along fences, and look at kind of putting a boundary or an edge around your landscape, taking out some of that turf that might already be struggling, or looking at those bare patches and putting in something that's like a drought-tolerant shrub that will be over the next couple of seasons established in the landscape, providing great habitat for wildlife and great aesthetic in your landscape while saving you some costs on your water bill.
Gotcha. You mentioned wildlife. What kind of wildlife are going to be drawn to these shrubs around my sidewalks and fences?
Shrubs are a great habitat hero for birds. And so birds will come to your landscape not only for any potential birdseed you might put out, but also to get caterpillars for their young. And so a lot of our native shrubs are host plants to very important species of moths and butterflies that lay their eggs on these shrubs. And then those eventually become larvae or caterpillars, which are bird species, will feed to their young. So shrubs are going to be great for facilitating that and also just providing habitat for birds and other small animals to hide around the landscape.
All right, so you're a friend to moths and caterpillars because they bring in birds.
Yes, and I love birds.
Okay, so I've got the new shrubbery around the edge of my yard. Now you recommend looking at some bigger changes and creating some focal points in the yard. What does that look like? What do you recommend doing next?
So there are some exciting things that you could do with these focal points in your landscape. For example, one option might be to look at parts of your landscape where you could put in a rain garden. This could be around parts of your landscape that there could be a downspout or maybe a lower patch where water already tends to pool, and look at installing some plants that are going to kind of slow down stormwater as it goes from your landscape into the drain system. And there are some fun plants that can be in these islands, and again, great colors, great aesthetic beauty that you could have in some of these little islands. You could also have more of a xeric island, something that might have more desert-like plants. So that could be cacti, that could be yucca. There's a lot of other herbaceous plants. So those would be leafy plants that add great texture to your landscape that you could put in these focal points.
All right, so let's say I've got some shrubs on the periphery. I've got some focal points. I've still got that grass there that's not looking so hot during the summer. I'm ready to rethink my inefficient bluegrass lawn. What kind of turf should I look at?
There are some native turf options. So buffalo grass or blue grama can be turf forming. It's not going to be the same as Kentucky bluegrass. It's not going to tolerate traffic as much as Kentucky bluegrass, and those are both native grasses that are warm season grasses. So they're going to take a little bit longer to green up. There's also a non-native grass called dogtuff grass that's by Plant Select, an introduction from Plant Select. And dogtuff grass is going to be a little more tolerant of traffic. It's going to be a little bit more tolerant of dog urine and other things that can be stressful to some of those native grass options. Again, that is a warm season grass, so it takes a little longer to green up in the spring. It's not going to start turning green until June. So if you start making some of those conversions, just know that it's going to take a little bit longer for those grasses to fill in and to green up.
Alyssa Linfield is a horticulture expert with the CSU Extension. Alyssa, thanks for giving us some advice today.
Thanks. It was great chatting with you, Brad.
Alyssa Linfield is with the CSU Extension. By the way, if you decide to replace your old lawn for a more drought-resistant sod, it can be a challenge. Alyssa told us that how to kill or how to remove turf is one of the most common questions the CSU Extension talks through with homeowners. If you need some advice, you can reach the CSU Extension at 970-491-6281. That's it today for In the NOCO. I'm Brad Turner. Aaron O'Toole will be back next week. Thanks for listening.